you're listening to the Lamptey Show. My name is Joey. This week I am joined by Neil.
Hello.
By Imogen.
Hi, Joey.
And by Dom.
Hi there.
It's the end of season review for a season that ended officially 2 weeks ago. And realistically, directly after the Man United game. Let's do moments of the season then. Who has got one to start off? Who wants to take the obvious one?
What do you mean, the moment of my life? That old?
Go on, Neil. You. I think this deserves to be with you, doesn't it?
You reckon? The one that I still maintain happened. Yeah. It's Torp's non-goal because of the way it made me feel, and it happened. We covered this in great detail last time around, so I don't think I have to go into too much beyond that. But for how it made me feel, even if it was only for 45 seconds, Torp's goal was the moment of the season for me, because it could have been the moment that got Coventry City to the FA Cup final, which is just inexplicable.
Now, for the listeners' benefit, I've got the privilege of seeing Neil. And when he originally said Torp's non-goal, he put it in air quotes, like it really was a goal.
I did, didn't I? I got confused there.
Yeah, you did. No, but I think that's the sentiment that we were talking about, wasn't it? As far as I'm concerned, it's a goal. The best thing the club could have done would have been to give it goal of the season. Because I just don't think there's any need to take goal of the season that seriously. And as well, did we have a standout candidate for it? There were some all right ones, weren't there? But there was no Musa against Leyton Orient or Musa against Port Vale or Musa against basically all of them.
A few longies, weren't there?
Yeah. So they were like, it was some nice big kicks, but it would have been a nice touch if they could have just give that goal of the season, because let's face it, it was a goal.
For me, you're like the arbiter of what's kind of lame and what's not. Because I have this thing where I can't quite work out sometimes if I'm being a loser and if I'm taking things. So I was like, this is a great idea. And then you said it. I was like, yeah, it's definitely a good idea then. I can't be called a loser.
I think that's good.
I genuinely thought you are how I measure everything. I measure everything about whether you think it's cool or not. And that's how I went. I was like, okay, if Joey...
Neil,
I do. Because I sometimes get things wrong, and I sometimes make an idiot of myself. But I follow your lead very often, Joey.
No, I don't. We'll let the listener decide that. I think, I'm not sure people would agree with you, given that on every kind of poll that's ever existed, is that I have always come out of it dead. So I don't know whether maths or people would back you up there. Right, other contenders for moment of the season. I think it's probably going to be the United game, but what else has been up there for everybody else?
Haji Wright's goal, surely? Against
Wolves, I assume, yeah. That's quite good. Yeah. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, great.
What about the other? How much better is it than the other goals in that game? Because there as well is that in terms of, I mean, it is obviously better, but there's the 5 minutes of waiting for what was very obviously a handball to be decided whether it was a handball that wasn't a handball. Did you enjoy that?
No, but okay. I enjoyed the outcome. But Wright's the composure to take it, the build up to it, the Ali McCoy's commentary, and then the commentary in every other language going. Yeah, that gets second, but it's nowhere near FA Cup semi-final. I saw a lot of people picking it as their game of the season. Doesn't come close to me.
It's like a defiance thing, isn't it? Sorry, it's just like, that's why people they're like, because it's kind of a split. You've got people who are defiant about the United game and what it meant, and are like, this is still the best game ever, blah, blah. And then there are people who are like, because we lost and it didn't go our way, they just want to get rid of it. They just want to sack it off. And I can't bring myself to do that. I think it still happened.
Where does it sit on for the three of you overall? Where does it sit on the chart of best games or best days out, or what? How would you describe it? I guess let's call it best games, so it's not to exclude Dom. In fact, Dom, we haven't caught on with you since. Where did you watch it?
So I ended up watching it in an Irish pub in Osaka. It was half
Was there
11
was there an
on Sunday
was there
night.
was it called Osaka's?
They didn't go for the pun. That would have been too perfect.
It's a missed opportunity, but anyway.
So yeah, it was kind of weird because
What time did you say it was? Sorry,
11:30 at night.
Okay.
So I was kind of expecting that there'd be like more people wanting to watch the game, but I was pretty much the only one. And there's like a few people from like different countries, like Australian, Canadian, and then like just before the game, a Scouser walked in, and he really wanted them to put the Liverpool game on. I had to really stand my ground for them to keep the game on. And when we were 2-0 down at halftime, I was great. Almost gave up on it because I was watching it without commentary either, because it was in Japanese, so they just didn't turn the commentary on. So
wow.
I watched the game quite passively for about 70 minutes.
To be fair, we did the same. So
so it was only up until the O'Hare goal that we were getting into it, but then like the whole bar was getting into it. It was approaching like 2 a.m. And when the fourth went in, everyone around me went insane, and then I was like, I see a bit of an offside there.
Oh, did you spot it? Did you?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was holding back my celebration a little bit. So I thought it was much more offside than it was in the end. When it was live, when it was like only a foot, I was like, wow, that really was close. But yeah, and then kind of fizzled out. Penalties, you kind of knew what was going to happen. And then just out into 3 o'clock in the morning in Osaka, seeing what that's like. I ended up in a club where there was about 8 people in there, so it was a Monday morning at that point, and then walking through the streets again. So yeah, it was a really fun night, as just like a fun night out experience.
That's clever.
But I can imagine that's like 10%, if that, of what you guys would have experienced. So like in terms of like the big commentary game rankings, I think because I was watching it so passively and without the sound off, it's kind of not registering to me at the same level as you guys. It was only like the day after, like watching the goals with the actual sound on, I kind of got that sense of just the inferno I missed out on.
But Neil makes a good point as well, is that it's like, actually, if you watching it even if you are in Japan like late at night or whatever, watching it without the sound on for the first 70 minutes, like it's even in the ground at that point, if it hadn't have gone the way that it had, it would have been a really like damp affair.
Yeah, a limp day.
Like it just was, it wasn't all that. So I could totally appreciate that. Like even once it kicks off, it must have been odd to sort of, I guess, because everyone else gets into it then because of how sort of remarkable the comeback was. But it's very, very odd one. For Neil, where does it sit for you?
It's close, so it has to be. By close, I mean it was recent, so I feel like it's at the top. I wasn't being overly dramatic when I said like best game of my life. It's kind of actually it's the best moment of my life, didn't I? So maybe that was dramatic. I don't know, but it was. Yeah, I think it's up there. I have moments. So Preston, North End, that one when we won in the last minute, that was carnage.
That was a bit of fun, yeah.
Hamer's goal against Luton. That was a classic. For some reason, Tavares' goal against Preston as well, that last minute one, just to draw.
Nice.
Very unlike me to go, but I remember the way I felt there. But I just think of this accumulation of 4 big moments. I think it's the top, isn't it? It's just we did something really special that day, kinda. What about you?
Yeah, we did. Notts County was my ultimate game.
Why haven't I said Notts County as well?
I will never ever
Forgot about that. That was brilliant.
I lost my mind when Bayliss' goal went in. But I think it's better. Like the playoff final was great, I think it was probably better than that because of the way that it happened. Oh, Joey's making a face.
Oh, hang on a second, the League Two playoff final.
Oh, Christ, yeah, not Luton.
Christ, I thought you meant the Luton game, wasn't it? Jesus Christ.
As soon as I can afford the therapy, Joey, I'll be right in there to deal with those issues. But no, League Two, Exeter. That was a great day. And again, it was only the second half that we turned up. I wish Robbins would consider playing the full 90 minutes instead of just half a game. But that was really great, and it was lovely, and it was the first time we'd won anything league-wise ever for me. But I think FA Cup might edge it just because it's such a... I never expected us... I mean, we expected to get out of League Two fairly quickly. I'd never, ever thought we'd be in an FA Cup semi-final.
No, it just seemed beyond us, didn't it? Even with the kind of the knowledge that you can have an easy run or whatever, is it just felt like statistically it was unlikely that a team so shit for most of our lifetimes would be able to transcend it. I think so. You mentioned, I think Middlesbrough away for the playoff semi was fabulous.
Oh yeah, that was lovely.
That was really, really good. And again, I think some of that was down to the expectation of just that first leg was so boring. I was really, really, really... I'd come down on my own and I was really hungover. I don't know what I'd been doing the night before, but it was drinking, obviously. And just, it was hot, weren't it? And I just remember being sat there miserable. It was such a fucking boring game. I was trudging back to Middlesbrough and just thinking, why are we here? And then I don't know if you remember, Middlesbrough put on like a fucking carnival at the start of the game, didn't they? It was all lights and fucking light, and you were like, "Oh, this is gonna fucking go well. They're gonna rile their fans up. This is all these people have got to live for, that and chemicals." And now they've seen big flashing lights. They're gonna make a load of noise, and then they didn't, did they? They just fucking. It was loud for a little tiny bit, and then we score, and then you're like, "Fucking hell! Actually, we're gonna nick this off these." So that was good, but obviously not, and not even at Notts County standard. The thing that's difficult to compare is Notts County was so unbridled, like non-stop, relentless joy from start to finish. Apart from that little squeaky bit in the middle where they did actually equalise.
Yeah,
they did score a completely legitimate equaliser that was taken off them for no reason. That was like a 5-minute spell of difficulty, but apart from that, it just felt like a party from start to finish. So obviously that's amazing. It's very difficult to compare that to United because one, the FA Cup semi-finalness of it was great. Then it looked like it was going so shit. But even still, as I was a bit like, it was meant to go shit. It's just a shame that we couldn't have done a bit better. And then I'd had it in my head, if we could get 2 goals, even if we lose, then we've won. Like, that's fantastic. And so when we got them, and especially how freaky the second one was, and it was right in front of us, is you were just like, well, this is brilliant then. That's it. I'm happy now. Like, if we lose this 3-2, we've give ourselves some respect. And then for it to go like that, I don't think even you could argue that Notts County was better, but I don't think I've felt as much as that a football match ever before, and I don't think I ever will. I just think was such a remarkable spectacle, even outside of being a fan. To be emotionally attached to it was almost a bit too much for me.
It's a different kind of joy, I felt. Like the Notts County joy, but I think because of the tenseness of it, the release was just it was a different feeling. It was still like euphoric, but there was a different kind of joy at Man United. And I don't know what the scales of joy are, but it just felt different because we didn't have that overwhelming sort of tenseness. So every single goal at Notts County was just insane. Like Biamu's goal.
They were great goals, weren't they?
Yeah, and it was just like the release. Knowing what it meant, and I just felt like they are different to me, and I don't know how I compare them. But the Man United one was just, there was none of that tenseness because I wasn't expecting it. So it was just pure joy. It was just, my God, how is this happening? And because they're also condensed together as well. I think that made it pretty wild.
I guess as well with the FA Cup, if you go to the final, you know you're going to get smashed anyway, and so what? It's just a cup. Nothing happens after it. Whereas with Notts County, there's so much jeopardy still to come.
Yeah.
Like there's the joy that, oh God, we've got to do all of this again. We've got to do it at Wembley, and I don't know if my nerves will take it. And even if we'd beaten Luton, yeah, it would have been incredible and fantastic. And then, oh fuck, we've got to go to the Prem now, and we're just going to get shat on every week. And I don't know how I'm going to manage this. And will Robbins be gone by November? Or I mean, this is so many terrible things that might be in our future. Whereas the cup is just joy. Oh God, I really wish we were in the final.
But this is what I was just about to say. Is it was almost, this is, I'm going to get death threats here, but it was almost win-win for me for it to play out the way that it did, because I don't know how desperate. Obviously, I wanted us to get to the final because it's an FA Cup final, but part of the joy of Man United was going, we could, under the right circumstances, we might be able to get something here. That I don't know how I'd have felt going down to watch us just get absolutely absolutely killed by Man City. And there was not a hope in hell. And I've got a real bee in my bonnet at the minute about, like, the second that they won the league, it's triggered some sort of massive sort of rage in me about Man City. And I think if I'd have then been going down to see us get absolutely drilled by a team that I now despise, like a juggernaut of hate, I just think it's just joyless, because you're there and you'd be like, oh wow, we're in the FA Cup final, but surely the beauty of that is that you've got a chance of winning, and just to see you get fucking crushed. Jack Grealish, like everyone's laughing at him drinking champagne on the pitch. It's like we've lost 8-0. I don't know how good that final. It would have been monumental because of the achievement that it represented, but the actual practicalities of attending that day, I think, would have actually been shit. So, like, if we'd have scored the winning penalty, I'd have been over the moon. But then when we didn't, I was like, well, this isn't as good, but I'm not actually as unhappy as everyone else is.
I think that's fair.
But I sort of feel like that about going back to the Premier League as well, because you're dancing with the devil again. It's like you got to be careful what you wish for. Obviously, what you need is for the club to go up so that it's financially sound enough to sort of last longer and have us have less chance of what happened previously happen. But does it go the other way? Like you say, Sheffield United won't go back up next season? That's going to be a struggle now for years to come. Like mentally, like everything about it, like that's got to have taken it out of you. And you just wonder whether would we have been better? I think we would have been.
It was the thought of this season missing out on the playoffs. Didn't really affect me too much, because I thought if we'd gone up this season, it would have been even worse than going up last season. We are no way ready for various reasons. You know, we were at the start of a rebuild, but it would have been devastating, I think, next season if we had gone up in the current state that we're in.
Funny enough, I think for me, like, it wasn't so much missing out on the playoffs, but I was really gutted about, like, not having a chance. Like, for all I really wanted was for that Ipswich game to mean something. I just always like just having a bit of an opportunity, like just being involved. It's like, for some reason, I was more into the Notts County game, getting to Wembley, than I was really actually when we played Exeter. I was less kind of enthused by that. And it's similar this year, where I try not to think about the actual end result, which is getting to the Prem. I just want the opportunity to have a big game, or for every game to mean something, kind of thing. And yeah, for some reason it wound me up way more that we couldn't even do anything in the playoffs or even get close to it than actually not making the FA Cup final. I was gutted about that, but I can kind of rationalise that. I'm just making jokes about it, but it really did annoy me that we kind of didn't. We almost had the worst case scenario in the league, just because I think I don't like games that don't mean anything. I think that's my biggest issue.
You're very unique in that sense, aren't you? Most people get really fired up if with a fight for 11th at the end of the season. It's all people could talk about.
Oh, I can't stand it.
You don't like games that don't mean anything. That's revelatory.
No, but this is mad though. Like, I don't know you're taking the piss out, but like, it's just like everybody seems like they were, by the time the Man United game had finished, it was like, don't worry about it now. I'm too knackered. I can't be asked for this anymore. Oh, it's over. Don't worry about it. And I'm like, I can't just go and sit and watch a football match where nobody's asked. It just, I don't know. It doesn't bring me
Do you know
anything.
do you know what's funny about it as well is that, like, so Leeds were obviously much better in the second leg against Norwich, but Norwich didn't turn up at all. I don't know that they're not in the final, and West Brom. What was the point of West Brom finishing in the playoffs? And so,
Yeah.
but also, both of the first legs were 0-0. You look at how the semis went, and you think you could have got, like, the first thing for me when I was thinking about it earlier in the season was it's going to be pointless because we're going to end up playing someone that is just going to knock us out at the semis. But then you look at how the semis have gone, and you've gone, actually, I on the right day, I think we could have fancied it against. But then the way that the team was bandaged together at the end there, I'm not too sure about it.
Yeah,
But like you say, it is undoubtedly of sorts a missed opportunity to some extent, isn't it? Because like it wasn't as insurmountable as it would have seemed to start off with. All of the teams sort of tripped into the playoffs rather than really ram-raiding their way in. Norwich may be a little bit different, but then they just completely fell apart. So yeah, it was a bit of a shame. But to Imogen's point, like you say, I don't think it was the right year to go up. And I just think as well, we've done this already, haven't we? But bearing in mind this is the season review, we can say it once more. I just think the turnover of players that we had, and to finish even in 9th in the most difficult championship season I can remember. Well, that's probably only really means 3 years, but certainly 3 years. So I just think we've done brilliantly. And that you look at the teams in the championship next season, and now you go, well, with the right players, moving us swiftly on, then I think we could do something. So, firstly, you can make signings in 3 positions. What 3 positions would you prioritise? Whoever has got their answer first, feel free to jump in. I would hope that we make more than 3 signings, but for argument's sake and for the sake of discussion, 3 priority positions in which you would sign players. Who's ready to go?
So, I think for me, the biggest glaring issue at the moment is just how soft we've been at the back, particularly over like the last month. It's just been no one seems to want to take charge. So I think the priorities, either a centre back who can absolutely dominate the penalty area, or a goalkeeper who can do that. I think with the existing defenders and goalkeeper we have, I think they're basically fine, but there's a major deficit of just authority to that area of the pitch. And I
dare I say it, a Faz-shaped hole.
Yeah, sort of, but one with legs. But the one thing I think about is when Brentford got promoted, they had their model of signing like young players to develop and sell them for profit. But then towards the season, they went out. They said, "Okay, let's sign Pontus Jansson, Leeds' captain, dominant centre back, and plop him right into our defence." And that just completely cut out a lot of the nonsense they went through at the back. So I think that's the absolute priority for me in the summer. I'm not too sure whether it makes too much difference whether it's a goalkeeper or a centre back with someone who can just really organise that defensive area of the pitch. And I think the other priority would be that creative figure, whether it's a direct number 10 Callum O'Hare replacement in the seemingly inevitable event that he is off, or maybe someone a bit deeper who can sort of play that hammer on and control the tempo a little bit and open the play up.
So, slight diversion here, but I really want to talk about this. So, elaborate on that a little bit. So, what might that look like, Dom?
So, I think one of the things I sort of noticed over the final couple of games of the season where we had a lot of the ball against Ipswich and against QPR, but we just kept on moving it very slowly down one side of the pitch, and there wasn't anyone really looking to get their head up and open play up. You kind of expect that player to be Ben Sheaf, but he kept on wanting to take the ball into tight areas and progress it forward. And I thought what really would have made a difference in both those games is someone could very that missing from our game, which was what Harmer was doing when he was at. Whereas, yeah, that was a big role that he played for us, and opening the game up. So I think that is an area, especially if we want to go towards being a team that can have a lot of the ball and actually win games as a result of that.
So the thing that I've been talking to Paul about in our incessant text conversations is I wonder whether signing a number 10 is unnecessarily expensive, and I wonder whether it fits with what should be our kind of strategic aims over the summer. And I also wonder whether it suits our sort of more general style of play. And to give you an example, I don't know if anybody watched Spurs when Maddison came back from injury. Now, I think he was a bit injured still, but also I think he slowed them down a bit. I think they'd got used to midfielders sitting a bit deeper and hitting the ball from further out to get on the diag and getting them in quicker by releasing the ball to them from deeper on the pitch and finding them quicker. I do wonder whether we would be better served not having a number 10 at all and having a kind of a three-man midfield. I wonder whether it would make us more resolute, and finding someone who could hit more longer direct passes would be easier than the kind of really flashy number 10. The problems with it would be is that it would leave basically nowhere for Casey Palmer. And I think that's a decision that Robbins would have to make about what I guess he would see as being a really senior, important figure, albeit one that I would sell in a heartbeat, as much as, I've got nothing massive against him. But that, I think his value is never going to be higher than it is currently. And I'm not sure he gives us the kind of advantage that a lot of people think he does. And I just think I think that we could become much more resolute and play to the strengths of people like Wright and Sims, who I think would probably be very happy to take a quicker pass and against a defence that might be on the back foot on the counter. But against your point, Dom, is you do wonder then about kind of if we play someone that is really, really deep, do we then have the skill to pull them apart? But my gut, I know it won't happen. I'd like to see us go for a sort of a more Liverpool-ish 4-3-3. Anybody got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. I'm less desperate for attacking players than I have been previously, mainly because I think of, you've got Sims, Wright, Efron, I forget his full name, but Sakamoto, Mason, yeah. We've got these players who, and you've still got Palmer technically, so he's around, and you've got stuff you can then do with that. I think obviously we saw back in the last season that the ability to have somebody coming on who could do something when those were knackered is pretty important. Pretty important. So I think we do need players, but my view is more with Dom's in terms of the defensiveness of it. I just think my bigger concern is what do we do to resolve the wildness that we saw in defence, either goalkeeper or defender, or some defenders, because I just thought Collins, for whatever reason, and for how this came about, the last 6 weeks was responsible for an inordinate amount of goals. Not even just some goals went in. When you look back at the goals, he was wholly responsible for a lot of those goals. And you've then got this thing where, okay, do you just say, okay, that was just a bad period, we'll back him, see what happens? Or do you make a strong decision quickly and just say, look, there's something there which isn't quite what we want from a keeper, and we go again and try and find something stronger, similar in sort of not as harshly on Kitching, but again, I think he's a pretty wild player, and he showed that probably for a longer period. He's just got these moments of erraticness and decision making, which doesn't really maybe suit what Robins wants. So I don't know what it looks like, but I do know that I think we need some much more strength at the back. I think we need to have a real think about personality in that. Like, I think Bobby Thomas broadly is the right man for that defence, I think, but he needs something or somebody alongside him who's got almost the same amount of presence and consistency, like that Pontus Jansson figure, that somebody who is just absolute dominant in that position, whereas what we've got there at the moment, or what we ended up with, just wasn't even close. So it's a big call. But yeah, I'm all over the defence, I think, in the summer, just in terms of steadying those areas, especially if the rumours are true in terms of the players that he's like. If Binks isn't going to come back, doesn't seem like Bidwell will ever be a Robins player. I think he's by accident seems to be in the team more than actually Robins wanting to be in the team. And then you've got De Silva, who just, again, I think he's liked, but pound for pound hasn't really shown that stability or that defensive quality, which we really do need as well. So yeah, all those little areas, and just general numbers. I think general numbers would help. And this is nothing against Tavares, but it was alluded to, you know, he was our secondary right winger for basically the second half of the season. And, you know, it's not a sustainable thing. He doesn't want to be a right winger. He did great. He did some really good stuff, but I don't think that's the person who gets you to the next level. So looking at the positionally and where we can add extra numbers so we don't end up what happened last year happening again, because we basically ran out of steam and we know that.
Yeah, you also wonder with Tavares whether there's probably a more pressing need to sign a right winger so that we've got the option of cover for Sakamoto or whatever. But that, like, actually, you could say to Tavares, you've got a chance to play up front. Like, that's what you're here as backup for, and you've got a year now to prove that you're worth keeping for longer than that. Like, it's going to be tough, but you're going to have to take your chance when it comes up. There'll be times where you're thrown on, because I just think Mason Clark, Sims could all have a go at playing up front. I'd have do you know what I mean? I don't think it's unfeasible. I've heard a lot of people saying that they feel like Wright will be back up front next season. I just don't understand where that's coming from. No. I think partly, but I think it's partly because of signing Mason Clark. I think that the suggestion is that he will be first choice on the left, and that means that sort of de facto means that Wright will be a striker. But I just don't see him as a striker. I want to round it off though, Dom. So you said that you'd have either a passing midfielder, a keeper, or a dominant defender. Third position?
I think those are the ones that really stand out, because I think if you look at striker, you'd hope that, well, Ellis Sims, we give him a season and he can rebuild on the form he showed over the second half of the last campaign, and Wright can come in there, and we've got Tavares. I think that's fine. You think maybe get another body there if we're of a mind to sell Godden, and then maybe you just want to add one more attacking player to that mix as depth. But I think having Sims, Wright, Sakamoto, Mason Clark, Palmer, that's a really good set of options to start with, and you're just hoping someone come in there and put people under pressure, cover for injuries, and help us through the campaign. I suppose the other one is maybe left back, even though we currently have two on the books, because as Neil mentioned, Bidwell doesn't seem to be preferred, and De Silva, who I still think does have something to offer. You look at what he did later on in the game against Manchester United, where he just looked really assured on the ball, and I think that's a quality he can offer. He's someone who offers like a good option in possession, keeps it moving. Look back to what he did in the Leicester game as well, where he just helped speed up our play. Just the issue is that he lacks a touch of concentration, and when you're short, unfortunately, you can't lack concentration as a defender. Yeah. But so you maybe want someone to come in there and just nail down that spot, and that would probably involve getting rid of Bidwell, but it's not the absolute priority compared to, I think, defence first and maybe another midfielder.
Can I just double check, Dom? It wasn't Jada Silva your lowest ranked player of the season in your player ratings?
I thought it was Palmer.
Didn't you come out dead bottom? I think it's what's it? I think it's like if he's not dead bottom, it's certainly bottom like 2 or 3.
Is that because he got a warning in that Preston game?
The either way is the what's it is. I would say. So my 3 is the same as you. I would say I'm going to get it out of the way and then I'll move on to you two. A creative midfielder of some description. That's all that the attack is missing, I think. I can imagine a world in which those front players are enough to get you promoted if they've got a really resolute defence behind them, which is what I expect we will move towards next season. I think that Robins will probably, like you say, prioritise on tightening up and getting back to kind of classic Robins standards, which weren't what was happening last season, understandably. And I think a passing midfielder, I think I would extend it one further. So I would have either, if it was the priority, I would just have a bastard somewhere. I'd quite like it to be in the centre of midfield, but someone evil with personality that just, like you say, whether they were screening the defence or whether they were in the defence. Bobby Thomas is tough, but he's not nasty, is he? He's not like a really like vile. Who I guess in recent years, I mean, Hamer, I suppose. Hamer was as wonderful as he was on the ball. Actually, he was just mean. He's just, it's just horrible at times. And I think there's lots of ways to dominate a midfield, and he did it both with the ball and without the ball. And I think we've missed that really badly, especially because we've shifted what Sheaf has been expected to do to some extent. So I think, someone that can really dominate. But I always think that left back is almost top priority because weirdly, Collins, I can imagine a situation where next season Collins is like more than good enough. I think that he's been very up and down this season, but I think there is a world in which I can imagine him in a title winning or promotion chasing team, and his underlying numbers are all very, very good. But you're right, Neil, is that there is this kind of concentration or something. The goals that he gave away that were his fault were just strange to give away. And I think that there's lots of moving parts like that. I just don't think that it sounds like a criticism, but I just don't think that Bidwell or De Silva are necessarily that upper echelon, like their ceiling limit isn't good enough to be a kind of upper championship level. And I just think we've got to be, if we're really serious this summer, we've got to be looking at least 3 players that you'd go, well, I don't need to replace you if we get promoted. That's really what I think, especially given that we've got money and given the problems that they've got in the Premier League with teams needing to sell before they can buy. We're in a really unique position where we should be able to attract better quality players than we have done previously and for less money because people need to sell players in the Premier League. That might be difficult because then who are you getting and what are their motivations? But that, I think we've got to go for high quality. And I agree. I don't think Bidwell and De Silva are terrible. I think they're the 2 left backs that you have in your squad when you finish between 9th and 7th. That's their level. So I would make that a big priority, but that would be I would have the same 3 as you, basically. Imogen, what 3 positions did you go for?
I've got goalkeeper, left back, and number 10. Going back to the defence point, I think that was one of my biggest disappointments when we got rid of Kyle left. I agree, his legs had absolutely gone, and watching him at that Preston away game was soul destroying because I've loved him for many seasons, and he was fucking awful, and that prompted Robins, I guess, to sort of move his formation around, which is what brings me on to the number 10. I think if you want, Robins does like a formation change halfway through a season, and I think you've got to have that breadth of squad to be able to accommodate that. But with the defence, watching McFadden with Doyle last season was really interesting, the way that he brought him up. I mean, Doyle was a more confident player, I think, than Thomas, arguably better in terms of what what he did on the ball and off the ball. His positioning, I think, was better than Thomas's. But you could see McFadzean guiding him on the pitch. And even if McFadzean hadn't been on the pitch for the second half of the season, I think we still would have had the benefit of him in training. And I think that's what Kitching and Thomas have really missed in the second half of the season. They've just looked so green. It would have been nice to have someone who had a bit of a bit more nous, sort of, I don't know, behind the scenes. And he always seemed very active in the way that he encouraged players on the sidelines. That would have been nice. Goalkeeper, I don't disagree with what you're saying about Collins. Any of you, Neil, I think you're right. He did sort of fall off a cliff the last 6 games. But Joey, I think if next season he could really take that step up. It's more about Wilson, whether Wilson is going to stay or going to want first team football elsewhere. We've talked about this before, that bizarre that he had, one of the best seasons of his life last season, won the Golden Glove or whatever it's called in the Champ, and looked generally pretty promising, and then has just, fallen by the wayside this season. Nothing to say he might not come back again next season, but I think if we're going to be serious about going for promotion, that we want something a bit more solid as a backup for Collins.
Just on Wilson, do you think he actually did fall off a wayside? I looked back at it and I couldn't. There was a couple of goals maybe against Cardiff where he looked off it, and his numbers, like I looked at them and his scores were always quite sort of low, but I don't think he was like terrible in the sense where I think it was a little bit harsh to get dropped, to be honest.
So I know I keep going back to Liverpool. Sorry to cut in for a second, but I've got a mate who supports Liverpool who's incredibly volatile and easy to wind up. So I wind him up constantly. And one of the things that he gets really, really wound up about is Trent Alexander-Arnold. So I will constantly bomb him with examples of Trent Alexander-Arnold either not tracking back effectively or whatever. And it's been really exposed last season. And you could say, wow, his performance has really dropped off a cliff. The prime example, do you remember, did any of you watch that game against Napoli where they shipped 4 goals? And honestly, it's like you just couldn't have forgive him. Just like that, I'm not going to be able to say his name, Kvaratskhelia. Dom, I'm looking at you.
Yeah,
I'm on about the left
right.
wing.
Yeah,
the left winger.
Maradona.
Just literally, just walking past him and just Trent just jogging, like no attempt, right? So is it that his performances have dropped off a cliff? Or is it that previously he had Fabinho and Henderson who were clever enough to drop in and know what he needed to do and give him the thing to go? So has Wilson got loads worse? Or was Wilson really adept at stopping the few shots that got through the wall of McFadzean, McNally and Doyle? And when that was what he was being asked to do, which was know that, because they defend so deep, often shots would be faced he would have to face shots that were coming at him from like 6-7 yards or whatever. And he's really good at just stop that shot that gets through that defence. But we were asking him to do loads more in front of a much shoddier defence. And he's just regressed to the mean, hasn't he? There's a reason that he's only been Golden Glove for 1 season in his entire career. So I don't think it's Wilson's dropped off. I just think it was really perfect circumstances for him to thrive in the season that he did thrive. And I think that there's an argument to say, again, do we need to replace the keeper? If to your point about changing the formation, he may well decide to sign one big bastard. He might get Fads back and shove him in the middle of Kitchen and Thomas, which isn't a bad idea, but you probably have to sign some more defenders if that's what you're going to do. Actually, if that's what you're going to go back to, do you just stick Wilson back in there? So I think it's tricky with footballers because there's a temptation to look at it and make really simple conclusions, but often it's a mixture of things, isn't it?
Yeah, and he has the same lapses in concentration that Collins does. I was thinking about the West Brom game where we drew 0-0 end of last season, where it was at the 95th minute or something, conceded and then saved a penalty. And you think that just encapsulates you. That's just not watching what's going on, and you flap about, and then when you're focused, like nothing can get past you.
Right. For the record, though, is what I say is I'm for the purposes of this very sort of fatuous exercise, I'm saying that I wouldn't put a goalkeeper in my top 3 positions to replace, but I would definitely buy a new goal if that's something that we can do and we have the money for and we find the right person. I would be very strongly looking at a keeper, partly just because of the Fergie thing of we need to win the league, so I'll buy Robin Van Persie. I've got Van Persie up front and Dyer in goal. On balance, I think even if I haven't got anything else, if I've got those two positions right, I might have half a chance. And I think that the thing is going to be around the amount of players we needed suddenly escalated as the season went on because the defence crumbled so much. And so we won't be able to, I think we'll probably got the resources and the ability to sign 3, maybe 4 really, really good players. Then we've got to think about where they go. But if we can get that, to some extent, they'll be dictated by who's available, I suppose. If he can find a wicked keeper, he'll probably bring in a keeper maybe at the expense of a centre-back or something. Like you were saying, I had the same thought as you, funnily enough, when I was talking about it the other day. Actually, a keeper or a class centre-back, I know that it's not the same position, but they might give you the same sort of overall outcome. Who was it saying about Fads, Imogen, about directing the play? If you've got a really experienced keeper that said to Liam, that was saying in the kitchen, just fucking just do what I say and not what your mad head is going to tell you to do. It might be fine. That might be all right. That might be the thing that they need. Then that's that.
The more I think about it, though, I thought, aren't we absolutely desperate for a centre-back? We are a Thomas or Kitching injury away from having a Lamptey and somebody else centre back, which that doesn't get you promoted, surely.
And as well is that actually, who is that other person?
Exactly. I mean, that's the more we need somebody else. Like we've lost Binks, and I just think Lamptey is your supplementary player who can jump in at any given point, but he doesn't sustain himself as a centre back pairing with anybody else. Not in a promotion winning team.
Well, I don't want to labour the point, but who actually is the 4th centre back?
But it was Binks, wasn't it? Now that we don't have one, so
no. But so yeah, actually, forget everything I said. Yeah. We have to buy.
Maybe. We desperately need one, and also we don't have any young kids coming through. Any young defensive centre backs. We have nobody who's jumping in from not even on the bench. They're all midfielders, and the ones who are even stepping up. So, I think we're desperate for one. No, we're desperate for 2. I think.
Robin's been getting the guys back and be like, right, we're playing a back 3. It'd be like, well, we might be. if we're all fit, we might be. But yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, we literally have to buy a centre back then. Okay, well, that's shifted things around a little bit. Do you know what, Bidwell? Despite what I was saying before, I actually think I actually believe in you. I think you could be quite good. Dom hastily hiding his player ratings behind his back while he says to Jada Silva about what great future he's got. He's like, I've seen some terrible reviews of your performances from last season. I just think people are just jealous. And you're tall. You're ever so tall. Yeah.
You're only going to get taller.
Okay, so that's that then. The other thing that I wanted to talk about before I sort of throw things open to the floor is anyone else exceptionally irritated by the insistence that I suppose is driven by poor old Andy Turner, content machine Andy Turner, to link us back to players that have already played for the club?
Always.
So Liam Walsh and Sam McCallum, have we had more? It feels like a lot more, but it might just be that kind of the way that those are. Hamer, of course, relentlessly shoved down our throats. We're going to.
I'll put it out there. I'll take Hamer back. Just
If he comes crawling back.
If he comes, this is going to cost you.
I went through. There was a poll that somebody did, maybe All Things Sky Blue or something. That was, would you have? It wasn't a poll. It was just a question, and I went through the replies and retweeted all of the people that said no, I wouldn't have him back. Like, what are you thinking? What planet are you on? Would you have Gyökeres back? Nah, I don't think so.
Nah.
We've moved on from that. We've moved on.
Doesn't want to be here, guys.
He moved on. We didn't move on. He ended that relationship. We didn't end.
Did you read what Robin said about him? Because he was talking about Callum leaving, and he was like, "Oh, he's going to miss it," and I think everyone's going to miss it. most people are going to miss it.
Most
I'm
people,
just thinking-
yeah.
He was like, I was thinking about Jokeras there. Oh, I don't think he'll miss us.
I thought you.
He's
I thought you-
laser focused. He's got no further interest in anything we do.
I thought you were going to say something else, which might be for me one of the funnier moments of the season. Do you remember what he said about Gus in that same article?
Oh yeah,
He said. He was like, look, Callum O'Hare doesn't know what he's leaving. You know, a lot of players move on and it doesn't work out for him. He was like, I think Gus has been here more this season than he was last season.
You're like, he's actually Neil.
Jesus
Mark
Christ,
is Neil
man.
Godwin. I love it.
Just
Love that, man.
give the guy a break. Yeah, it's not a bad thing. It's just us. He's just like, yeah, I can't. You know, I haven't asked him to come. He just keeps coming back. He's like, all right, all right.
I don't
He's
want
just
him
had his
here.
teeth done in Leamington.
Yeah, you just think, wow, okay, yeah. I mean, obviously, you'd have Gus back. Would any of you have McCallum or? Do you know what, actually, very quickly, is what I'm saying is I'm going to drop in at this point. So, CCFC analysis. If you look for it on Twitter, if you Google it, Tom, who does CCFC analysis, has done some really fantastic articles over the last kind of second half of the season, certainly, or it might have just been that was where it came to my attention. Again, his articles have been really, really good in terms of numerical focus, but as well, not just kind of looking at data and using that as gospel, but putting some insight into it as well. I'd really recommend checking his stuff out. But actually, he's been very, very kind and has done us a kind of little audio summary of the season in numbers. He's not here with us today, but he's pre-recorded it. So I'm going to drop that in now, and then we will continue to talk about McCallum and the other person we were talking about.
Yeah, so firstly, Joey, thank you for having me on. So the idea is to just have a quick recap of Coventry's season from a data point of view. Look at how that team needs to evolve to turn into a serious sort of, at least playoff, but hopefully automatic promotion contending side. And then just to look at some of the players in particular who have been, debated the most really in terms of their performance, which is very, 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 very subjective. So as a starting point, when you look at the league table, 6 points less than last season, more goals scored, more goals conceded. One of the big sort of metrics that you sort of hear about, XG. It's quite a nice way to look at things. It sort of collects all the data from sort of where shots are taken, how likely they are to go in from that position, and there's a sort of alternate way of putting a table together. So you'll get teams who, will underachieve and overachieve in XG, but the sort of the data and the stats so that Coventry are pretty much in the table exactly in line of where their performance sits. There are some big sort of underperformers in XG. So, for example, Sunderland would be the big one in that. They're probably, if you look at the XG numbers, they've scored 10 goals less than they should have, which actually equates to something like 15 points. So on a true XG table, Sunderland would actually be sixth. And then there's a couple of sort of big overachievers. Preston, who've actually scored 15 goals more than what they should have in XG terms, which equates to about 12 points. And Cardiff are the other ones there, who have overachieved by 9 goals, which equates to 16 points as well. That's mainly due to their proficiency at sort of set pieces. So Cardiff on the XG table have actually been relegated this season. Coventry would have finished 7th. Sunderland would have made the playoff. So it shows that there's a big swing, and there are some vagaries too, but it's quite an interesting way to sort of track teams' performance. Because you will get spells where teams are just hot in front of goal and do really well because of that, and the other way around where you'll go through spells where you not actually concede that many chances, but teams are just taking every single one. Whereas that XG total taken over a sort of long period of time can show you some interesting sort of interesting trends. Another interesting thing to look at is actual sort of playing style of how Coventry are sort of team sort of sequence style, and this is measured by measuring their direct speed, how quickly they get the ball forward. and how many passes they have per sequence. So Southampton are sort of the most intricate team in the league. 5.2 passes per sequence at a direct speed of quite low, 1.5. Coventry are actually very much in line with Ipswich in terms of how they play. Pass per sequence is sort of 3.5, 3.6, and pretty direct at sort of 1.9. And then Huddersfield would be right the other end of the scale. They're only sort of 2.4 passes per sequence, but really direct, and that direct speed is 2. So yeah, so that's another way of sort of tracking performance and looking at the sort of styles. And another few ways to sort of analyse Coventry's performance over the season. Look at the sort of set piece performance. Coventry are a mid-table team for attacking set pieces and defending set pieces. In terms of sort of defensive action, Coventry are not a particularly effective pressing side in terms of high turnovers, sort of lower mid-table for that. Just over 300 high turnovers in the season, which sort of translates to 53 shot opportunities. So I'm to the top there with sort of 370 high turnovers and 80 shots. So there's certainly a lot of room for improvement if Coventry do want to become a sort of really high pressing team. And then one of the sort of most interesting ways to look at the season and how Coventry really need to improve is to look at how they've actually handled their possession. Coventry's average possession across the season was 51.5%, which is a very sort of mid-table statistic. But what's interesting is when you break down the performances based on possession and see the points that have been accrued, it shows a glaring weakness that Coventry have when they do actually dominate possession. I did an article on my blog called "Problems in Possession" that goes into this in a lot more detail. I think to summarise it, when Coventry have a share of possession, so if they have between sort of 45 and 55% possession in a game, which suggests a sort of end-to-end fairly open game, Coventry are averaging 2.08 points per game. That's at least playoff pushing automatic promotion form. And it shows that Coventry have been very strong in them sort of basketball end-to-end games. When Coventry don't have much to the ball, when they have less than 40% possession, they've actually done okay. 1.5 points per game, which is sort of high mid-table form. And if you think that in those games you will be playing against teams high up the table, so that's actually not a bad performance. The big weakness for Coventry is when they have lost the ball. When they have over 60% possession, the numbers are really poor. If you exclude the Leicester game, which was obviously a great win, but you have to sort of take into account that Leicester had only 10 men for more than half the game. So if you exclude that from the numbers, when Coventry have 60% possession, they're picking up just 0.5 points per game. That is what Rotherham have averaged over a season. I think we've seen that particularly was towards the end of the season when teams sit back, allow Robinson's men to sort of have the ball and play. It's very easy to sit in against, pick them off and counter and win through mistakes and set pieces. So for Coventry to really kick on next season, that's a big area of concern, and they've got to find a way to do that. A lot of that will come down to recruitment. Coventry have got lots of very athletic end-to-end players. You had your Wrights, your Van Eywijks, your Sims, your Sheaves, who are able to get up and down the pitch. But they lack that real sort of technical skill, especially when sort of Sakamoto's not playing, to be able to sort of unpick defences that are sort of sat against them. So that's a big thing for next season. And then we can sort of come on to sort of big debate around players. I think there's sort of three main areas of real debate. The first one for that is obviously in goal. Numerically, Brad Collins has actually done pretty well. He's having to make nearly 4 saves a game, which is second to only Johansson at Rotherham, which shows the Coventry are giving up a lot of chances. His save percentage is really high at 75.9%. But if you look deep into the numbers, you also see that he's saving a lot of easy chances, shots that should be saved. He has made quite a few mistakes. I've got it as 3 errors directly leading to a goal, which is high considering he has spent time out of the team this season. But his big strength is that sort of distribution. His pass accuracy is over 75%. And considering that he's taking on more than 5 long balls a game, his long ball accuracy is actually fantastic, over 40%, which is pretty much the top of the division for that. So for Collins, it's a case of, is he able to cut down on them mistakes? Because if not, then you have a problem. I think we've seen pretty clearly from Ben Wilson this season that he's just simply not good enough in possession for the style of play that Coventry want to use, where they want to pass out from the centre backs to the centre backs deep, invite the team on and look to play through, and you need a goalkeeper who can play for that. So that's for Wilson, that's going to be very difficult. You're interested in what he's obviously at left back. Jake Bidwell's has been very, very popular this season. The numbers show that he's just a very solid left back, nothing more than that. His big strength is crossing. He's creating more than a chance a game, and his cross accuracy is up at 33%, which is really strong. He's not a ball carrier of any kind. Probably in the bottom 5% of fullbacks in the league for sort of ball carrying. Passing's fine. Defensively, solid. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you've got Jay De Silva, and if you drill down into sort of De Silva's numbers, he's in the top 1 or 2 fullbacks in the league for their attacking output. Passing, creativity, dribbling, ball carrying, touches are all fantastic. And then he's right at the bottom for his defensive numbers, for tackles won, for duels won, percentages. So it's an area of concern where I think Coventry do really need to find a sort of more rounded fullback like they have on the other side with Van Eyck. And then the other one for me, who I find incredibly difficult to pin down in terms of what his performance level actually is Casey Palmer. I'm in a camp that I always thought that he looks great but doesn't actually achieve an awful lot. But if you look at numbers, Casey Palmer is actually very, very strong. Defensively, his numbers are really good because of his, I think, just down to his strength. Really, he wins a lot of tackles, good percentages, a lot of duels, good percentages. His recovery works okay. So that side of his game is actually strong. We know about his ball carrying. He has a lot of touches, and he's unbelievably creative. His pass actually is mid-ranking, but he's creating a lot of chances out of that. So that's a sort of a real strength for him. The one thing that concerns me with Casey Palmer, if he's left to fill the hair void, is that Palmer doesn't get into the box an awful lot. He has 2.5 touches in the opposition's box per 90 minutes. Callum O'Hare is nearly double that. And actually, Milan Van Eyck from right back is as high as that. So it's something to consider that if they don't replace O'Hare, they are going to lack goals from that sort of central midfield area. So I think, to sort of summarise then, that Coventry over the season have actually performed broadly in line with what the stats show. More attacking than they were last year. Slightly weaker at the back. The big concern is those games where they have lots of the ball. That really does need to be improved on. And then there's sort of, like I said, 3 areas that are concerning me from a sort of player's perspective. Collins in goal, just because he's making a good amount of mistakes, although he has a lot of positive attributes. The 2 fullbacks, where you've got one who's pretty solid but not a standout, and one who's really going forward but can't defend. So they really need to try and find an all-round fullbacks to play at left back, and then that sort of attacking midfield area where you're losing O'Hare, who's sort of added goals to his game this year. And at the moment, you'd only have Palmer there to replace him. Palmer has some good stats and some bad stats, but the one concern for him is that he doesn't get the opposition's box very often, doesn't score a lot of goals. He's actually fairly wasteful in terms of he has a lot of shots at a very low XG, which means he's shooting from distance, from not very likely positions. So again, thanks for having me on, and we enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Tom. So CCFC Analysis is where you can find Tom's work. The reason that I was jogged my memory there was he said to me the other day that defensively speaking, there's an argument to say that Sam McCallum was the best performing left back in the Championship last season. Is anyone able to verify that out through sort of knowledge? Dom, you're usually our go-to person for knowing things.
I have seen Callum play for Norwich on a couple of occasions this season. Didn't really stand out defensively. I think might be one of those, well, could have just caught him on a bad day, or could be one of those where it's kind of hard to measure defending in a statistical manner. Remember the East Anglia derby earlier in the season, not the most recent one, where Ipswich just got in behind McCallum repeatedly. And the thing was, when it was with us, was that he mainly played at wing back. Yeah. So never really had that experience to develop the defensive side of his game. I think, to me, McCallum isn't that significant upgrade on Bidwell or De Silva that we're looking for. If we brought him in, he would be one of two choices at left back, rather than that nailed-on starter.
Yeah, well, I would agree with that. I have got a feeling that he will bring him back, though, because I feel like he's one of Robbins's really favourite children.
Yeah, I think so.
I think he's like, when Robbins did that big fucking shouty thing about we're bringing in players to be part of this project who want to be COV players and whatever else, McCallum is like the poster boy for that, because I think he was like super, like his attitude, and Robbins used to really wank on about it when he was at the club, and I think he like really like loved him in a way that Robbins isn't really nice about anyone, is he? Like, as a person, like he'll be like, they did a good goal, but that like he seemed to really cherish McCallum. From memory, I might be being disappointed. Yeah. I have got a bit of a feeling that it might be a bit too perfect. And as well is that I think Robbins and Vivash don't mind pillaging their pasts, do they? Vivash more specifically, but that I do wonder whether that's a perfect storm of signing. I don't think I would go there. I'm not even sure he was the best left back at Norwich last season. And the other guy is available on a free as well. But I wouldn't be too surprised at it happening. Would anyone have Liam Walsh?
The only point I would say on Liam Walsh is, and I don't think I would have him, because I think we're looking for somebody who's going to get us promoted, and there's nothing to suggest that he can do that. He has run the show against us every time he's played since. So he certainly shows that he can still perform, and he can perform at championship level. Obviously, he's had big injury problems, but I can see, if we did look at him, I can see why we would look at him, but I wouldn't.
The big problem for me with Walsh, in terms of trying to think about things logically, is in my dream setup next season, we're playing 4-3-3 with a reasonably flat 3-man midfield. And what I need someone who can sit deep and do good passes. I need someone that's just an absolute nightmare defensive monster, and I need a ball carrier. And when I sort of rack my brains of my favourite ball carriers, especially COV players from midfield, I think I've actually seen someone do that job almost perfectly in the last few years, and it was him. But you just have to remember it was in League One, weren't it? It's just not, you can't, it was in League One, and it was what, 4 or 5 years ago? But it's really hard to remove the emotion of really loving Liam Walsh.
And is he left? He's left Swansea then? Is he on a free?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
This is why it's being batted about, is because he's
So they don't want him, or he's left. like if they don't want him,
and this is the thing, is that I think he's not super old either. I think he's maybe 26, 27. But you'd think, why are we? But then again, is I guess I am further perpetuating this thing of talking about it when all it is, I think, really is is Andy Turner being told that he has to farm out 5 articles a day out of very, very nothing happening.
He sort of falls into the Tom Bayliss folder for me of when he played for us, I expected so much more to come, and it's never really materialised. And yeah, he probably did run the show against Swansea, but we never ever beat Swansea. So I don't know. I would be reluctant to get him back. His injury record also doesn't massively appeal to me.
Yeah, okay. Right, okay then. So anything that we've missed, if we think again about kind of, I think maybe if we round things off with other highlights from the season, has anyone got anything that they were really kind of overjoyed by or emotional about to any extent? What else made you feel this season?
Not much, but Liam Kelly going. Sorry, just Liam Kelly of Coventry City legend status. You know, he's left the club now, which is I just think it's sad in the way that it's sad. It's not sad because this always happens. Every player leaves the club, and it's fine. But I just think he was brilliant. He was a brilliant captain. I think he everybody says what a great professional he was, and I think what he did last season to come into the team having not played for 6 months and then just rattle off 5 90-minute performances in a row, including semi-finals and
in the biggest in the biggest games of the season. Yeah,
I mean, indebted to him for that in terms of stepping in when we need him when Sheaf was injured. And yeah, I just think he deserves all manner of plaudits, as Oggy would say. And I don't know where he'll go. Other people talking he's going to Northampton, which doesn't feel. I feel like he can maybe do a little bit better than that, but that's he's 34, 35 now, isn't he? So, and
I think he lives in Milton. So, I think he lives in Milton Keynes.
Yeah. Exactly, that would make a lot of sense for him. Yeah.
The other thing that I guess doesn't warrant a huge amount of conversation, but is significant, albeit that we've kind of touched on it, is that now leaves Jake Bidwell at 31 and Jamie Allen at 29 and Ben Wilson perhaps at. By the way, I'm absolutely convinced that Godden's going, so I'm not including him in this.
Oh, I was going to say,
Ben Wilson is the kind of the senior players, and we don't think that Jamie Allen or Jake Bidwell will feature particularly prominently in the first team next season. So you have got an unbelievable. I know that the kind of strategic direction is to sign young players with a resale value, but I do wonder whether there might be some value in, like,
yeah, I think so.
You like a 32-year-old. It doesn't have to be a 38-year-old. As much as I still keep looking, to see whether Andrea Pirlo fancies a go. He didn't run about that much when he was in his 20s. Do you know what I mean? How bad a job would he do in a suit in the middle of the parks? Because that is literally what I need. It's just, he can drink wine while he's doing it. I don't think it's a problem for him. I just need him to hit right and Sakamoto out wide from 60 yards. I just think there's got to be room for that kind of player. Well, they're saying that there does seem to be a bit of a there does seem to be a bit of a dearth of this. I've spent the last 2 days, and I don't want to get too much into this, but I will say out loud because it's in my head. I literally can't believe that if you want an English international level attacking midfielder, you can take your pick out of what realistically is about 20 adequate options. But if you want a gnarly old bastard in the centre of midfield to kick people, there's not a single player. I was trying to think, because I don't want Rice and Bellingham sat next to each other, because I just think that if you spend all season bombing forward, then how do you drop that instinct to stay back? And also, I just think that you're sort of wasting them a little bit. But I was like, well, I'll keep Rice there. I'll move Bellingham up, and I'll put And I was like, could Harrison Reed do it? We haven't got. I don't think there's a single English defensive midfielder that looks like they've just put a fag out before they've run out and are ready to like fight someone. That's just completely gone. And I know that I sound like a mad sort of 80-year-old ranting here, but you do need a bit of that sometimes. Right? All the time, if you mean.
Yeah, they're all young. What about Ben Sheaf? Oh no, he's not hard. That's true. Ignore that.
But the thing with Sheaf is that Sheaf is kind of like a sort of jack of all trades to some extent, isn't he? And that makes him a fantastic all-round midfielder. But I think if you're looking at a 3-man midfield, he's not any of the archetypes particularly, but would do quite a very good job of any of them. And I think you'd need that as a skill because of the rotation and whatever else through the season. Sorry, but I'd really love to see like a gritty, experienced, nightmare. But I don't know other footballers, so that's that. What else made us feel this season? Do you know what I loved? I loved the fact that Ellis Sims came good. Because it felt like an anomaly at the start of the season. It felt like you were like, you're good, aren't you? You're a lot better than this. And there was flashes of it, and you were like, but this just doesn't seem. Just don't believe that this is the guy that was scoring. Like, if you look at his goal record, it's pretty consistently fantastic everywhere he's been. Yeah. So for that to click into place in the way that it did, where now you think next season you could be the top goal scorer in the championship. You could score 30 goals next season if you hit the ground running. Like you've got a bit of everything. Like we could do lots of things. We're talking about changing the formation. He's totally unaffected. He could you'd be happy with him up front no matter what we're doing. Yeah, which I think is. I'm not even sure you could fully say that about Gyökeres. Obviously a much better player overall, but it's a fabulous thing to have such a good quality striker that's so sort of diverse and adept. So I was over the moon to see him really, really step up in the way that he did.
I was over the moon just generally in terms of the amount of goals we scored. Like we scored 94 goals, was it? I think something like 94 goals in the season, so that's why I was desperate for us to have a few more games because we might make the 100. But I just thought that's why I'm still so hyped up about the attack for next season, because we can do it with what ended up being a little bit of a attack limping over the line with Tavares, but we were still scoring 2 goals a game. We were still finding the net. So if we could start to click with these extra players, with Sakamoto playing on the wing for all the season rather than right wing back and all that sort of stuff, I think, nothing to say that we're going to play the same amount of games as next season, but we looked like such a threat this season. And knowing that we could score, it ultimately turned out we just couldn't defend, which was our downfall. But knowing that we could score, we went for that period of scoring 2 goals a game for like 8 games in a row or something stupid like that. It was a real mad season of goal scoring.
O'Hare got 10 goals.
Yeah.
I thought that would have taken him 5 years to do, or to previous goal scoring rate.
Yeah.
When Callum O'Hare's going, how sad are we? You'd think that we'd have mentioned that sooner. Is there some significance in the fact that kind of, we haven't, that's not come up before then? How big a loss is he?
It's a tough one. I mean, obviously it's a big loss. I also think the talk of like his decline in performance towards the end of the season was overstated.
Yeah,
I think he was still clearly influencing games. He just wasn't scoring, and you may be looking at that period over Christmas, January was a bit of a purple patch, a bit of releasing some of that frustration after having missed nearly 2 seasons. So yeah, I think it's a huge miss, and it's sort of a shame that he's sort of walking out the back door almost. But
just very quickly on that purple patch, though, we were talking before about the impact of the players around you, and that O'Hare hasn't had the benefit of someone as threatening and dangerous on the opposite side as Sakamoto, and someone as selfless and smart as Wright. Because I think that a lot of O'Hare's goals were contributed by Wright being the one that was happy to peel off and play him in, which I don't think he's ever had anyone that's had the kind of, for a start, is that, like, certainly not the quality that Wright has got, but they just seem to click really well. And that, to some extent, you're like, oh, is it a purple patch, or just are they the circumstances that you needed to do really well? Which I don't think is I don't think it's too much to ask as a footballer to have all right players around you, and that for that to improve the quality of what you do. So yeah, I think you're right. Is, I guess, it's a statistical anomaly, but you wonder whether if he'd have stayed, the circumstances were there for him to have repeated that. Maybe you're not convinced.
No. I can see that happening. Yeah.
Where do you think he'll go? Where do you think he'll go?
Leicester. I think
Really?
it makes a lot of sense because they're going to have to sell Dewsbury Hall, and that's sort of a Callum O'Hare shaped hole.
They're basically gonna have to do a Sheffield United again, aren't they? They're gonna go up, but straight away be like, if anybody wants to buy anyone, that would be fantastic, because we're not going to actually try and stay in the league. We spent our Premier League money on buying players to get us out of the Championship last season, and now we've got nothing left. So anybody, maybe we could buy Dewsbury Hall.
Yeah.
Again, would anyone take Dewsbury Hall at the club? Just to,
he's a knob.
Okay, I'll take that. I'll take that as a no. Then you were one of the people that I retweeted that wouldn't have Hamer back, if I remember right. What else? Fields. Have we got any more Fields, or is this the 23-24 season wrapped up?
I just want to mention his name once. Sorry to interrupt you, but Van Avac. I think he deserves at least one name check in the pot, just in terms of him as a personality. You know, I think we miss personalities when they're not here, and Hamer and Dabo and that lot disappearing meant we needed new people to step up, and he's shown that he's got that. And the other thing is just his ability to play well in the very big games against the big teams was very much appreciated and impressive. And I think there's way more to come from that man, unless somebody buys him in the summer for mad money, which wouldn't surprise me in the sense where he's definitely shown himself on TV to be a very good player. But it would have to be big money, I think, for us to let go an asset like that. But yeah, I just wanted to mention him because I think I'm really excited about him. I think him and Sakamoto on the right is a lovely combo.
He's also the absolute template for me of the type of quality of player that we should be aspiring to sign.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It's just like, again, is that I'm not sure how good he would be in the Premier League, but if we got promoted, I wouldn't be looking to replace him at right back. You'd imagine that's one of the places that you'd go, let's give, especially with his pace. You'd just think, I think you've got a good chance. And it's his first season in England, you'd imagine, and young enough that you'd think he's going to get better before he gets worse. Just a really, really terrific signing. $4 million for a right back was insane at the time. Now we sort of think it's mad how a year does you in, because I'm like, if we have to pay $6 million for a left back now, last season I had a heart attack when I saw we were going to pay £8 million for a striker. Other players quickly that I haven't got to mention: Josh Eccles. I would say great season overall, and again another player that I think you'd probably hope isn't nailed on first team player next season, but someone that you'd hope would play 20-25 games. Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Just, and again, someone touched on it before about the kind of the academy not having anyone imminently likely to get into the team. I think it's just really fantastic that he was the one guy that was able to sort of transcend that rise through. We talked about it a couple of times, haven't we? But that just to be involved in the club as a League Two club, but that now to have established yourself as someone that you don't doubt as a Championship midfielder, I just think that's just so good on his behalf. Especially with it's easy to forget all the injuries that he had to deal with as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's no longer
really
a supplementary player. He's now
No.
somebody who's, he can be first team. And that was, so I remember the beginning of last season, or was this season, whatever it was, saying he was a supplementary player for whoever else we would sort of have in the team. And like you see him play, and he's actually stepped up. And now there were plenty of occasions where it was Sheaf and Eccles. They were the two that you felt made sense. And I don't know if next season that's going to be the same case again, but knowing that he's capable of it and you can trust him to perform at that level, considering, he costs us nothing, is a decent bonus for us.
And then the only other player that's had a fleeting mention that I think is probably worth some discussion is the Taught Man, Torpedo.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really
He's
excited
talked
about
us.
seeing him next season. I'm just going to stop you from saying any more, Joey, because I don't know where you were going with that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to him. I think he's had some nice cameos. He looks a bit slow sometimes, but I thought against United he was brilliant. Obviously, the incredible goal against Sheffield Wednesday in the cup. So, yeah, I would like to see more of him. I don't know how they will integrate him, how quickly he will be integrated. I think Josh Eccles has been quite a slow burn, and I imagine Robbins will do something similar with Torp. But we'll have to see. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I very, very fascinating. I'm really surprised he didn't play more of a significant role towards the end of the season. I would have liked to have had a look at him at number 10, but that is what it is. Like you say, I think it's probably slow integration, isn't it? But I've never seen. I'm not sure I've ever seen a COV player control a ball so elegantly, and I don't know how valuable that is. But by Lord, it's impressive. Is that us then? Signed, sealed, delivered, 23-24, done and dusted?
Feels like it's going to have to be.
I think so. I do have a couple of points of housekeeping that I wanted to bring up before we depart. First of all, Covcept, not just an exceptionally talented person, also has pointed out to me that it is pronounced Gustavo Hamer, and he has sent me the video of Hamer pronouncing his own name as Hamer. I feel vindicated and special.
I've seen him doing Hamer.
Yeah, I've seen a video of him saying Hamer.
Not in this video.
It depends on what country he's in.
This is the video that I am going for. Well, he was speaking in English, and we are in, God's own country, so we're going to go for Hamer.
And this is what you always say, isn't it? Is if you're in our country, you should be speaking our language like we do. You're always saying that, aren't you?
Yeah. Always. I never shut up about it. My second point of housekeeping is that I erroneously suggested that Brian Richardson was dead. He's in fact still alive. And when I did a bit of research on him, he was last reported he was caught speeding in a BMW and banned from driving in February 2023 in his 80s. So
classic
killed him off. Bang out of order.
Yeah, I know. I feel terrible about that, since he's clearly still alive and kicking. I just thought we should let the people know before we break for the summer.
This is important.
I also think, bear in mind that you mentioned Covcept, is we should give them a round of applause for winning in the popular vote Best Coventry City Podcast.
Oh my God. I always knew we were the second best.
Yeah.
Getting it was a real reality check for us, getting beaten by someone who actually isn't even a podcast in popularity contest. Just if I feel like I'm getting too big for my boots, so it's always nice for somebody to remind me of our actual standing in the course of things.
Did we come second, or did anyone else finish ahead of us?
Second in the end.
Only mine and Neil's kind of
Bottom.
Isn't this funny? But actually, deep down inside, we're like, we have to get second. We have to.
Yeah, going to retweet this 4 times, just pretending I don't care.
I've quote tweeted this, making some sort of joke. If you see it, it's just a sort of. If it brings it to your attention, I guess that's just one of the things that happens, right? Anyway, like and subscribe while you're here, please. Yeah. So that was good. And let's face it, the best thing about it was that Sky Blues Extra wasn't even in the 4. So that was the real quiz for me. That was the absolute dream. The fantastic. We haven't talked in terms of other things this season. Pasks removals, huge highlight for me. Will King, another huge highlight for me.
New guy.
He's a new guy that we've got. I just imagine, I think there's a few of those brothers, isn't there? And I think that they're all successful to some degree. And he really feels like the black sheep out of that group. I don't mean that in a really negative way. He's just very eccentric, isn't he? in a way that Doug doesn't really seem to be. And you just think of him turning up to games in the box and Doug be like, come on then, Doug, are we ready? And Doug be like, oh yeah, absolutely. I've got you a seat over there. I've got you a seat over there. Look, it's that's the only one they had free. Anyway, but come and give me a half time. We'll have a coffee. Just to answer, but just sort of the way that he's sort of shoehorned himself into the club so heavily has been a source of enjoyment for me.
Yeah. For that, you had another one. You had another name coming. Have I thrown?
No. I think that's what's it. I think that's probably it. There we go. That was the season that was.
So autos next season, then, guys. Yeah.
Do you want to make a prediction? Is that what you want to do?
That is it. It's my big bad prediction.
I think we land in the playoffs.
Oh. No.
Can you imagine how that's insane for me to be? Because normally I'd be suggesting that we get relegated. For me to think we're in playoffs, we must be in some good shape. The season hasn't even started. We haven't even made any signings yet. But I actually think we might be all right. Neil, Dom,
between 1 and 6.
Yeah, so I haven't whacked my my player ratings into the model yet to do a proper forecast of next season, so I'm just going to have to vibe it slightly, but I reckon top 6, yeah.
However, speaking of season previews, Dom, when can we expect your magnum opus to drop on our doorsteps?
Well, it should be, as it always is, the Monday before the season starts, so expect that.
Remind everyone knows where to find it, but just for the people at the back.
It is sidewayssammy.com, and if you're still in the mood for season reviews, there's still loads of season review articles for you to catch up on. So it's worth popping that into the old browser.
Perfect. Neil, talk to me. Sky Blues blog.
Might be happening next season. I just want to back up Dom. So I don't read any blogs except my own, but I read Dom's. That is,
true.
That's a mark of approval if ever there was one. I don't listen to any pods other than this one. Again, mark of approval in terms of how good it is. So yeah, Dom's work is excellent. Read that. And next season, Sky Blues blog might be back.
You would listen to Sky Blues Extra if they hadn't taken out that court injunction against you coming with it.
all of us. Yeah.
Coming within,
I'm still banned from bloody Covent Warwickshire as well. BBC CWR for no good reason.
I mean this with the. By the way, this is going to sound like a criticism, and it's not. You're one of the mildest people I've ever come across. Right? You're
I agree
in a really lovely way, and yet people have taken against you really.
I don't understand. What have I done? I mean, especially like this CWR one's really getting to me because I'm racking my brains about what I think there was maybe one time where you Joey were messaging them relentlessly at half time with stuff from Twitter, just banging on about a joke, and I kept retweeting it, and I think they thought I was the source of it and just blocked me for it. But I was just jumping on board the hilarity. I think that's what happened anyway. I can't remember the joke at all, but it was a funny one of those jokes where you may take it too far. So
it's my fault. That does sound like something I'd do.
It does definitely sound like something you do. I didn't dream this one.
Yeah. I know if there's one thing that I can do, it's to relentlessly take something that wasn't funny enough in the first place and drill it to death.
And there's one thing I can do, it's find you so cool that I then copy it and keep going up. So, yeah,
yeah. God, guys. The all right. Okay, so Sky Blues blog. If there's something there, you'll tell people, won't you?
Defo.
Imogen?
Yes.
What do you think you'll be doing this summer? What do you want to plug?
I might comment on something on Twitter occasionally.
Fantastic. Well, you can be found there.
Look out for it, guys. Can't predict when.
Yeah.
Be huge.
Fab. We're sort of.
What about you, Joey? Are you going to be doing anything meaningful, useful?
Well, on WhatsApp, is we've sort of very, very vaguely, roughly kicked around the concepts of trying to talk to some people, haven't we? Either people.
Oh, yes, we have.
I quite like the idea of trying to speak to people from within the club. So there's well, we don't need to talk about it now, but though I'm going to try and maybe speak to people to get. I just think it'd be interesting to speak to some people about what we speculate and conjecturize, which is a word, but that we don't actually know anything. And I think it's nice to get some insight to be able to back up some of the shit that we talk. And yeah, I thought we'd try and speak to some people who are involved in the running of the club. And I think it'd be maybe interesting to try and speak to some of the players from the team that got promoted out of League One. There's enough dust to settle now that actually those stories are much more interesting because of what's happened since for both us and those as individuals. So if anybody's got any suggestions of who you would like to hear on, then do let us know and try and organise it for me, because I don't really want to like that.
Or if you are the players, do get in touch.
Yeah, I mean, if you
quick. Take out the middleman.
The idea, I mean, it would be terrific to think that there would be a player that is, especially one that's left, that is listening to this.
James Derry.
It literally, yeah. It doesn't matter. By the way, it doesn't matter who you are. If you have ever played for Cov and you are listening to this, drop me a text. You will definitely get on, because that is good enough for me.
You think Stern John's got us in his ears right now?
No, I'm thinking much lower down than that. We were joking the other day about getting Charles Vernam on, or players that had only played once.
Yeah.
But Charles, if you're listening, get in touch. We will gladly ask you about the one appearance that you made, or if it was even that.
I really want Jordan Shipley, because I just want to ask him if he remembers me from any of the times I've accosted him in Lem. Whether
that would be fantastic. I mean, I was going to sign off by saying, if there was one ex-player that does listen to this, who would it be? It may in fact be Jordan Shipley, who is kind of in the post-McSheffrey era, Mr. Coventry.
Yes.
I think given what we know about Gus, I think Gus might listen.
Gus, come on.
I mean, that would be a coup, wouldn't it? That really would take the piss if we could get...
It's almost like the time we tried to get James Maddison. Yeah.
That's a good point, actually. I might try and revisit. That was a dead end. Surprisingly, he was quite difficult to reach. I got an email back from his agent that was like, yeah, okay, no, I'll put it to him the next time we do brunch. I was like, yeah, all right. Cheers. Who do we think might listen?
I was thinking like one of the kids that Andy Thorne put out for that game against Southampton, like lambs to the slaughter, like Will Roberts, Joe Henderson, or whatever.
That's not a bad shout. Cyrus Christie once sent us a DM. This is how long we've been going for now.
He's on free.
Accusing us of talking shit about him. And I went back to him and said, I really don't know what you've been told we've said, because we've been unequivocally full of praise for you. What was it that we said? And he was like, well, I haven't actually listened. Someone just told me. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know. Because we actually, you're one of the few players that we like. So
yeah.
I'll just say.
Who was it who hated Paul?
James McPake. They got into a big row, didn't they?
That wasn't through the podcast, though, was it? It was from Paul's earlier days.
That was Paul's foruming.
Yeah.
Because the one thing that we do know is that players are obsessed with reading their own player ratings, and Paul was very much the L'Equipe of Coventry City players. I gather there's a few of them that weren't overly enamoured with it. Although saying that is that we are aware that Dom is followed, because was it Tom Bayliss that said,
oh yeah
there's one guy, we don't know who he's speaking to, but he seems to correctly predict the team every single week, so it's very obvious that was you. I don't think they're listening to this.
Nah.
Well, I'm missing out.
I don't think they are. We'll get Fankati Dabo. Just send a message on DM saying, I don't want to come on, but could you go back to weekly, because doing one every 3 months isn't anywhere near enough. That'll be the standard of message that we get. Okay, that's just run out of steam, I believe, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. All good.
What a lovely season.
Mm,
Back next year to get promoted, yeah?
100%.
Sweet.
Fabulous. Thank you, Dom.
Cheers.
Thank you, Imogen.
Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you.
And unless I get off my big fat ass and arrange anything sooner, we will probably speak to you again next season. Bye.